Hi, back again for lesson 6. So today we're going to turn our poetry into some creative writing, and we're going to use the emotions in Brothers and the events in Brothers to write something original and interesting using the START formula for descriptive writing. So get your learning objective and your title down. Today we're going to be describing the sky. Same thing as last week, we're just going to be really refining our skills with it. We're going to be describing the sky at the moment of abandonment in Brothers. So stanza 3, where the younger brother realises that the older brother and Paul have left him behind and their relationship is forever changed. But we're going to be doing it today from the point of view of the younger brother. Your learning objective is to describe the sky at the moment of the younger brother's abandonment using an extended metaphor. So this is the key thing that's going to develop your work and make it interesting and engaging and also really emotional, is going to be that use of that extended metaphor. So get that down, make sure your page looks beautiful, make sure it looks neat. If you need to pause, do. And I just want to take us back to last week's model, just so you can kind of remind yourself of the standard that we're working towards. So last week's description of the sky went a little bit like this: chaos, utter chaos. The sky was a ragged blaze of purple, blue and indigo. A discarded cloth, a patchwork quilt. It almost concealed the smiling sun beneath, which peered through a small rip in the fabric. Here and there, the thick blanket frayed, ripping apart at the seams suddenly to reveal furious threads of lightning that tore angrily through. The silhouette of the houses beyond were slowly losing their dimensions as the thickening darkness of the quilt was laid out above. Now, this has all of our ingredients in it. So it has our one-word sentence to start with, then it has our two-word sentence that includes the word from the one-word sentence. It has our description of the sky with a colon, and then an in-depth exploration of the extended metaphor. Is it a discarded cloth? It's bigger than that. It's a patchwork quilt. It's our extended metaphor. Just the beginning of it is introduced here. And then we have these phrases that we start with: it almost. Then we have here and there. So we're forced to describe the different parts and the different elements of the sky. Okay, and it's got lots of lovely vocabulary in it that we might want to steal. Again, for today, we might want to steal the word frayed or ripping. We might want to steal the word discarded or concealed. Okay, we might want to steal the word or the idea of things having dimensions that make them solid. So all of those things are things that we can steal, and we will steal them today, and we're going to try and reuse them and recycle them, because the more you recycle your good ideas, the better you'll get at writing them, but also the easier your writing will get. So today you've got your versatile vocabulary, so we're going to try and include those words, and the more recycling, of course, the better. So we've got rational and not irrational, although you could say irrational, but it's emotional. You've got vulnerable and secure. You've got moral and immoral. And of course, you still have the others from last week. You still have chaos and order. But then you have all of these other words that we've come up with today. And they're just extras. They're bonuses. You've got discarded. You've got concealed. Frayed. Ripping. Dimensions. Veneer. Superficial. All of these things that you have used before for attacking other poems, or doing other creative writing, this needs to be as part of your weaponry when you do any other piece of creative writing. Recycle, reuse. Okay, and that's what we're going to look at doing today, reusing things. So I want us to think about the story we're going to be telling today. We're going to be telling the story of this stanza 3 and this abandonment. And there are certain elements that I really want us to include. And in order to do that, we're going to have to think about it and plan it and set our scene a bit. So we have down here somewhere the family house, where the little brother has gone back to get money from mum. This nice homely place, this place that's secure, that's protective. And we've got little brother wanting to speed back, spring back is the term, spring back with his money in hand to show, look at me, I'm here, I've got my coin, I can come with you, I can be a grown-up too, I can be big, we can be friends, I can be just like you. Obviously it doesn't quite work out that way. And we've got the fence that he might hop over, the gate that needs to open for him to go past. And so there we have that part of the scene, the brother happily running back with the money mum's given him. Then we have the next part of our scene, the path that leads up the hill, far, far away to the older brother. Now up here we have a different part of the scene. We've got our bus, its big old wheels, and climbing onto the bus we have that older brother, and we have Paul merrily clambering on, chatting to each other, probably catching their breath after running away from the little guy. Maybe feeling guilty, maybe not feeling guilty at all. And that's where we're at. Okay, we've got little brother realizing big brother has disappeared without him. And he's all the way up on that hill, far, far away. And in the distance we might have some trees, a little forest to signify his loneliness and how complicated the world is. So these are all of the elements of our story, or of the poem and the narrative of the poem that we know we have. And they're the ones that we can use in our description to make it interesting and engaging, but also emotional, to really play on this idea of vulnerability versus security, chaos versus order, this feeling or sense of being discarded, their relationship becoming frayed, the dimensions of their brotherhood melting away. So this is the scene, and this is what we're going to try and write about, is this moment, him here opening his eyes and seeing that, and what does he feel inside. Okay, now that's the next bit that I want to get at. So what I want you to think about is this, okay? Little brother wants to be just like big brother, but he can't. He's been left behind. He's been abandoned. Now what is going on with him? What does this young guy think? What's going on up here? What does he see? Okay, give me two things. Well, actually, give me three things that the little brother sees. And then in here, beating away, his little brother's broken heart. What does he feel? What emotions are coursing through his veins or pulsing through his veins? Whilst you're doing that, just think, I'll give him some tears. Poor little guy, life's hard. So that will start to set us up thinking about the character we're writing about, setting the scene, the emotions that he's going through, spurred on by the things that he sees. Now, what I want to put this into, the mix of something that we've done before, to show you that good writing can be used anywhere, no matter what image that you use. So again, a lot of your creative writing will be as part of an image. Now, I decided to go again for the same image that we used last week. Not because I'm boring, I am boring, but because it's really useful to do something you've done before well, but also to see that you can tell a completely different story with the same image. And we're going to tell this story rather than that one of the moment of birth that we did last week. Now, if I'm looking at this image, I'm still going to pull out similar things. Now, I notice, unfortunately, my printer stitched me up a bit here. It was much paler when I looked at it on the screen, and I really liked the idea that a lot of the colours were pale, but here they've come out quite dark. So let's just pretend that these colours are quite pale. So when I'm looking through the image, I've got these pale clouds. Everything seems washed out, as if it's been put in the washing machine, and all of the colours have run. Pale, washed out, colours have run. Then I've got this lightning, this flash of lightning here. And I'm thinking it kind of looks like a road or a cable or something like that. And I can do something with that later. Then you've got all of this land here. Seems flat to me. Seems endless. Almost eternal in how long it goes on for. Then we've got these clouds here. And in my imagination, these clouds are vast. Or the sky is vast, rather. The clouds are big, but they're not as vast as the sky. And I think actually the thing that I like about the clouds is that they seem almost superficial. Clouds blow past. Okay, the storm will pass. But also we've got this sense of size and scale. It's almost, you can't quite reach it. It's distant. And it's almost untouchable. Distant, untouchable sky. So these are, even though this is the same image, we're still pulling slightly different things from it. And then again, we had this little house just in the distance here, this silhouette. And again, that seems just out of reach. And the connections I'm starting to make, you'll notice, are different to the kind of connections I was making before, because in my mind, I'm thinking about what's happened in Brothers. I'm thinking everything seems out of reach or big, like big and vast, like adulthood or being grown up, but distant and seeming far away, not being big enough, or distant like their relationship. or the land flat and endless, like the distance between the boy when he sees his brother has disappeared, and there's a lot of ground to make up to this silhouette of a house or a bus or a brother that is just out of reach. So the picture becomes something else, becomes something different. Now, our next job is to use this image and our knowledge of the story, or the poem, the narrative of the poem, to make our extended metaphor. And I want to make it really specific to the scene back here. I'm going to combine this scene in my head, because I know that's my narrative and my story, with this image here. And I want to try and tie them together. Now, I'm just going to I'm going to write down my subtitle, which is extended metaphor. That's what we're going to create now. I'm just going to colon, and I want to make it really specific to the scene. I'm just going to underline it badly with a squiggle. If you have a ruler, please do it with a ruler. It looks so much better. Now, I'll go through the same process as we did last week. And I'm thinking about what could I compare the sky to here, because we always start with the sky. Okay, so I could compare the sky to, now I'm thinking I could compare it to quite a few things. I could compare the sky to an ocean, I guess. That's one thing. Like this raging, churning ocean that with waves crashing, that could be a good metaphor for the boy's emotions. I mean, I could literally compare it to the boy's heart. I could compare it to a whirlpool. All of this, I get this sense of movement with the clouds. Or even if I'm thinking, taking that idea bigger, I mean, I could spell whirlpool correctly for a start. That would be useful. It's got an R in it. If like a whirlpool in space, I could do a black hole. Or I could even do maybe something like a map. Are those clouds countries? Is the lightning a road? I don't know, but that could be something to run with. So these are some ideas that I could use, that you could use if you wanted. Now I think I'm going to give myself a challenge, and I think I will compare it to a map, maybe even a torn map. So I could compare the sky to a torn map. Why though? Well, because... Well, why does it look like a torn map to me? Well, to me, it looks as if these could be continents crashing against each other with oceans in between showing distance. Maybe even the lightning could be a river going through a country that then spills out to sea. But also the map kind of looks a bit torn and frayed. Maybe the map to adulthood, the map to their relationship that's not quite working, or is ripped, or is too old, or doesn't work, doesn't give us the right directions. So maybe I'll go with that. So I could compare the sky to a torn map because it looks as if it could contain oceans and continents with the lightning as a river or a road. River or a road leading somewhere. Right, make sure you've got the example down, okay, so you can see the way that I have kind of processed that information and given my reason why. Because what I want you to do now is I want you to tell me what you think the sky could be. So I want you to complete this sentence here. I could compare the sky to, and I want you to tell me why. You can take any of these ideas, an ocean, a heart, a whirlpool, a black hole, whatever, or come up with your own better one. Okay. So take a minute to do that, put it on pause, and do your writing. Okay. After that, we're at the next part of our planning stage, and we're thinking very much about if the sky is a map, what can I see in that sky, or how would I describe that sky? What nouns are in it? What adjectives could I use to describe it? So for me, I'm thinking that we've got this idea of countries or continents that are far apart. So I think I might just add distant in here. But it also, to me, kind of doesn't look clear. Like, are the directions clear? Or are they scribbles? Is this a well-drawn map? So we've got those roads that could take us somewhere useful, but again, they could be scribbles, they could be nothingness. Then I've got this idea that I can see the sea, or I can see oceans, maybe even mountains in the clouds. But again, those clouds aren't obvious. I don't know where they're going. So I've got this sense that everything is unclear. Maybe something is hidden. And the word that we used from last lesson was this idea that things were concealed. So I can reuse that. In some senses, I think that this map looks torn, like it's ripped. And that, again, ripped is something we used last lesson. It's ripped or it's frayed. And it doesn't give us the right directions. It gives us the wrong ones. So in a sense, it looks useful, but is actually superficial. It has a veneer of use. But is really superficial. I also get a sense that maybe it's quite a ragged map again. And that's another word from last lesson. And if it's a map of the boys' relationship or a map of their emotions, I guess I want to add that in. Is it emotional? Is it an emotional map? Is it split? Is it coming apart at the seams? So those are the things that I'm going to add in, and maybe also some stuff about the colours. Because I really like the idea that it was kind of really pale and washed out. This sense that it could be empty. A bit like maybe how the boy feels, like his life is empty. So, this is what I've got from it. What I want you to do now is I want you to come up with as many things as you can to describe your sky and link it to your metaphor. So, I want you to come up with 8 separate ideas. And if you are feeling super brainy, give yourself an extension. Okay, put the video on pause, take a minute or two to scribble down as many words, phrases, adjectives, or nouns that you would throw into this. Okay, before you kick off and you write your own and you might feel ready, I'm just going to do a worked example. So I'm going to show you what I would write up with my idea of it being a map before you write up your own of whatever your extended metaphor is. So here's our worked example. I'm going to go through the same process of one word paragraph. Here we go. So I'm going to go for torn, ragged, and torn. The sky was a washed out and chaotic scribble of blues, of pale blues, and oranges, colon. What is it? It's, and here's my extended metaphor, it is a scrunched school atlas, a torn geography map. And why this reference to school? It's to show that they're young, to highlight their age. Their references are references to school. They're not big adults talking about the world. Full stop. Now I used it almost. It almost what? It almost revealed the directions to I guess to the future. The roads and seas to somewhere grown up. This idea that they're adventurers wanting to grow up, wanting to experience things. Somewhere grown up, exciting, and new. Full stop. Here and there. Oh. Oceans overlapped and mountains blocked the way. And mountains. I'm going to make that better. Mountains. Now, last week we talked about using verb and a verb to show what they were doing, so I think I could probably add something better here. Oceans overlapped and mountains looming and watching blocked the way. Roads of lightning forked, split, and hissed. Wrote, hit and hissed, leading to a superficial, colourless nowhere. All right. Then I'm still talking about these lightning bolts. These lightning bolts look exciting, but I can't quite get them. They're fast, they disappear. So I might want to say that they are electrifying. Electrifying, but impossible to catch. Now I'm going to refer back to my extended metaphor. The map could never lead me to the silhouette in the distance. And that silhouette possibly being the brother, possibly being a grown-up, possibly just being the house in the picture, we don't know. Okay. So what I've tried to do is I've embedded as much of the words from here as I can into my final piece of work. I haven't used all of them. If I was to do it again, maybe redraft it, I would. But I have included words like pale, washed out, scribbles, roads, seas, oceans, mountains. Could have done better and got a bit more of that in. This idea of it being torn, again, I could have been better and got a few more of these in. Got superficial in, but not veneer. Maybe that's a way to improve it. Okay, so I'm trying to use my plan as best as possible, and I also am using the poem to guide me and a really clear structure. And this is the structure that you're going to use when you write yours. Make sure you've got the model written down in your book or your paper, whatever you're using, because now you're going to write your own based on your plan and your vocabulary. So this is the checklist that you need to use. Okay, number 1, use your plan. If you use your plan, your work is going to be good. Number 2, use your versatile vocab. Okay, the better your vocabulary, the better your writing. Now, the structure. Make sure you start with a one-word sentence. Number 2, two-word sentence for your second one. I've broken the rule slightly. I used a 3-word sentence, ragged and torn. You can do a 3, and I'll say 2 to 3 max. Then make sure you use a colon, and then you add your extended metaphor. So this 1-word sentence here, 2-word sentence or 3-word sentence here. Okay, description of the sky, extended metaphor here. Okay, the colon that you use here. Then you want to develop the metaphor. And you use these phrases. It almost. Here and there. Verb plus verb. And what I mean by that is something like this. Looming and watching. Or hissing and forking, almost like a snake, or ripping and fraying. You're starting to get the point, right? This is the kind of thing I'm after. Cracking and pulsing. That'd be a lovely one if you're talking about his heart. Cracking and pulsing. So, what you need to do now is you need to apply this to your writing with your extended metaphor to tell me about that moment of abandonment. Let's see some greatness.